What's up, invaders? Welcome back to Ant Invasion. Today is probably going to be one of my most insane tutorials, so stick around to find out how you can have fish and ants in the same setup. Okay, so what exactly are we attempting to build here? Well, long story short, we're going to have a small aquarium which the ants can build their nest in which is then inside a larger aquarium full of fish and water. Ideally, you want an aquarium around about a quarter of the size of the larger aquarium. Don't worry, if you don't have any aquarium lying around, plastic containers will work great. Just try and find one which is fairly clear, otherwise you might not see your ants too well. Another tip is to try and get a container rather tall. This will benefit the fish as they won't be so close to the surface when they swim, as we're going to make the water level the same height as the container. Now that you've found your desired container, it would be a good idea to cut some waitong, or otherwise known as hebel, and place them into the container, remembering to leave a small gap between the hebel and the sides of the container. This is great because the hebel can retain lots of moisture, creating a perfect environment for the ants. Now for one of the most annoying procedures I've ever done. Your job now is to get some dirt and shove it down the small gap, as I thought. It now hit me that rather than having moist dirt, you could just pour some soil in the gap and then moisten it after. Instead, the route I chose took ages and I got very annoyed. Make sure to shove this dirt down all the sides that you want the ants to dig in. This is a very tricky part. I'd advise asking a parent to help, as it got very heavy. You now have to lift the small aquarium into the larger one, making sure not to drop it, otherwise bad things could happen. I chose to have the aquarium in the back left corner to leave room for the fish to swim while you can see the ants in the background digging. But it's completely up to you where you decide to place the aquarium. I decided to add some sand on top, which will be important later on. Actually, important right now. So we made these structures out of hebel to resemble a kind of beach shore. But I'm not too sure how it looks. I spread out the sand and then proceeded to add some to the bottom of the tank to give it a nice look rather than just glass. Now this next part, I really messed up. Just take a look. By doing this, it made the water really murky, so I eventually siphoned it all out. After siphoning it out, I filled it back up, doing the same method, except making sure that the water didn't splash up all the sand and then created dust, which made it murky. I then added some drops of this anti-chlorine stuff, which basically just gets rid of the chlorine in the water. I'm not sure if there was any, but just to be sure. And then I waited about 40 minutes before adding the fish, so that all the water was all fine and the mixture had gotten through all of it. The fish I'm using are just little guppies. Literally the cheapest fish. And no, I'm not being cheap, because if this doesn't work and the fish die, then yeah, you get my point. There we have it, the ultimate aquarium formicarium vivarium. The next day I woke up and checked on them, only to realize that the smaller aquarium had overflown and had flooded. I was very annoyed because I had to wait almost a week for the tank to become dry again. This process didn't take as long due to the Hebel absorbing most of the water. Each day I checked up on the setup, and one day woke up to see small plants growing in the setup. I was very excited because they had just popped up randomly. I didn't even plant anything. Some other sad news is that actually 4 of the fish died, which is very unusual as I've been feeding them every single day. But don't worry, hopefully this won't happen when you guys create your own. Unfortunately, I won't be adding the ants in this video. If you want to see how this whole thing pans out, consider subscribing and turning on the bell so you never miss an update of this AFV. I've also gotten some advice from some people to add some plants and snails, but that's also for another video. As I always say, thanks for watching, Ant Invasion out.